Welcome to the May 1st Clermont County Board of Commissioners meeting. Can you believe that? It's
No.
May 1st. It's like this time just flies. Prior to starting a commissioners meeting, we always ask for local clergy to come and join us and obviously pray for this meeting in our county and those employees. Michael is here this morning. Michael Brandenburg with Greenbush Baptist Church. Michael, thanks for being here this morning, and would you please lead us in prayer to open this meeting?
Thank you, Commissioners. It's an honor to be here. Can we bow our heads, please? Heavenly Father, Lord, in our hearts, we plan our course today, but we pray that you establish our steps. Father, I pray that we seek you for advice, and let's not make decisions based upon what we know, but based upon your wisdom. Guide us, and we place this meeting in your hands. We place our hearts and our minds in your hands so that you may direct us. Lord, we also ask and we pray for our nation, our president, and for all various levels of officials, and in particular for this assembled council. I'm asking that you would graciously grant them wisdom to govern, a sense of welfare and righteousness, justice, confidence in what is good, and the ability to work together in harmony even when there is honest debate. I pray for those gathered in this chamber and for the agenda set before them this morning. Please give them an assurance of what would please you and what would benefit those who live and work in and around our beloved county of Clermont. It's in your blessed, irrevocable, immutable name, Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
And because we have someone with us here today, two people who are in uniform, Mr. Pappas, who is our senior dog warden, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks for being here today. And I'll call this meeting to order. We will move on the agenda that's been prepared with us with item number B, approval of regular session minutes. Board, you've had the minutes early. These are the minutes of 4/24/2024 and had the opportunity to review them. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make the motion. Second.
It's been moved and second. Any further conversation? Roll call, Gail.
Commissioner Batchelor?
Yes.
Commissioner Corcoran?
Yes.
Commissioner Payne?
Yes. We will move on to public participation. Is there anyone here today that would like to, from the public, who'd like to participate in this meeting? Seeing none, we'll close public participation. Board, I'd like to move to new employee introductions. We will start with the Clermont County Animal Shelter. Tim Pappas, introduce a new employee.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
I actually have two employees. One is running a little behind. She had some childcare issues. She's got two darling little 7-year-old twins, and I imagine she's got her hands full, but she should be here actually any minute if she can make it. Her name is Lindsay Kiefer. She is our part-time receptionist, soon to be moved up to the full-time receptionist position. Lindsay has been working with us for several weeks now, and she's done a really, really good job. She's catching on very quickly, and she just enjoys working there at the animal shelter. Next, I have Sarah Steele. She is the newest deputy dog warden. Sarah is a lifelong resident of Clermont County. She's into competitive bodybuilding, and she has three Great Danes, a cat, 2 daughters. She has worked for the last 5 years with Brightview as a substance abuse counselor and done very well there. She has a bachelor's in criminal justice as well. And she's been with us for several weeks now too, and she's doing very, very well.
Welcome. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
And stick around. We'll be doing a picture of new employees. Next up is Community and Economic Development. Bruce Kris to introduce his new employees. Morning.
Good morning. It's my pleasure to introduce our newest permit specialist, Josie Gillum. She is a lifelong resident of Fayetteville, Ohio, born and raised. She is 32 years young. I like that. She is a avid kayaker and hiker. She also enjoys yoga, crafting, bonfires, and friends. She has 2 dogs. You have your dogs' names?
Theo and Ronnie.
And
Yeah.
is very involved with family activities. So she's been with us 3 weeks now, too, like our other new employee. She's learning very quickly, so we're really happy to have Josie on board. So thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank
You bet. Next up is Department of Job and Family Services, Ann Gross.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm here to introduce Paula Gibson. She is one of our social worker too. So she is a screener, taking those calls when they come into children's services. Paula grew up on a small farm in northern Indiana. She moved to Ohio in 1978 and has lived in Clermont County since that time. She loves Clermont County. She's been married 43 years and has 3 children, 8 grandchildren, and 3 great-grandchildren. Her education and work background is in social services field and helping others of all ages. And she's looking forward to this new stage in her life with Job and Family Services. And we're very happy to have her.
Welcome, Paul.
Thank you.
You bet. Next up, Emergency Management, Pam Hoverclaws.
Good morning. I would like to introduce Wesley Gutbridge. Wesley comes from Licking County Public Health, where he was the emergency response coordinator. He's a relatively recent graduate of the Ohio State University with a degree in political science and a minor in epidemiology. We're really excited to have him. This is starting his 3rd week, and he jumped right in last week during our Emergency Operations Center exercise. So we are extremely lucky to have him.
Welcome. And then next, Water Resources, Live Bloom.
All right, we have 2 new employees to introduce. First is Doug Rowley, right here. There you go. All right. Doug started with us back on April 15th. He's from Bethel, Ohio. He's working at our Bob McEwen water treatment plant, first shift as an operator 1. He's unlicensed, so he'll have 2 years to obtain his license. And he came to, he applied with us with about 30 years of factory experience, and about 16 years of that was working actually in a soap factory. So he's used to the factory environment of a water treatment plant. But we're happy to have him and wish him luck on the operator license.
Welcome.
Next is Hunter Werner to my left here. Hunter started with us just this past Monday, April 29th. He's a maintenance tech 1 working in our wastewater collections division. He's currently working with our Vector driver, so he's riding around on the Vector truck, helping with that. He's came to us with experience as a machinist and some experience as an electrical apprentice. We're happy to have him.
Welcome, Hunter. And if all the new employees would like to come up front, you can kind of assemble right here in this U shape. We're glad to have you all.
Can I kick him?
And we'll go in 3, 2, 1. Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Almost got you. I was
You
like
didn't know
moving
that
over.
was fun. Next, I will move up H, county elected and staff officials. I understand we have a presentation this morning from Kris McClintick. Kris is the executive director of the Port Authority. Kris,
Yes, sir.
glad to have you
I wear a
here.
few hats, and this morning I come to you wearing my Port Authority hat.
Yep.
Right.
We have an exciting presentation for you this morning. I'm going to start off, and then I'm going to introduce a couple folks that are going to actually do the presentation. So, Port Authority has been around for almost a decade. In 2022, actually, the Clermont County, where my old hat there, Clermont County Port Authority created a bond fund and did the authorizing legislation. However, we haven't moved further than that to actually do any deals or set up the actual financing mechanism and all that. So what we'd like to do today is, I think you've heard some of this information in the past, but refresh your memories on what the Port Authority Bond Fund can actually do for the community, for the county, for the jurisdictions, for economic development within the county. So today we have Andrew Brossart, from Bradley Payne Advisors, and Patrick Woodside from Frost Brown Todd Attorneys. These are the folks that actually do the nuts and bolts work. We're the economic development folks. We're the sales guys. We're the ones that go out and sell this and talk through the projects. And then when we get a project, we hand it over to the experts that actually do the back end financial work and legal work. So with no further ado, we have Andy Brossart and Pat Woodside here for the presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, Pat's going to interrupt me whenever he feels since he's the paid attorney. It always makes me sad every time I talk about bonds. Everybody gets up and leaves in the room and goes away. Yes.
When they're so exciting.
Well, that's right. My wife doesn't think so, but anyway, we're going to walk through some slides here. Do I have access to? Is that okay? Great. So we've talked about bond funds a couple times with you folks, but they've really become, more prevalent across the state. We've been engaged with Warren County for quite some time. I think about 6 years ago they started their bond fund program, and we got a slide on that. It's grown to over $100 million now, and other counties have started to do theirs as well. Delaware, we started that one up about 2.5 years ago. And now in conversations, obviously, you're looking at getting it off the ground and moving forward. Was just up in Erie County yesterday, having the same discussion with them. And Lake County is looking to kick theirs off early next year. And Hamilton, who has just now sort of reconfigured their port authority with Butler County, is looking to do a bond fund down the road once they go through the board sort of discussion and education process. So bond funds have been around for a while, and some of them, and we're going to talk about a few that have been really successful in the state that have good credit ratings. And one might ask, well, why not just work with them, and not go through the whole process of doing your own? What we found is that sometimes the attention isn't there, and that's what Warren County faced. They felt like they brought a couple deals to the table, and for whatever reason, it just wasn't being taken seriously. So they said, listen, we want to start our own and get moving, and really sort of create our own destiny, our own policies and procedures relative to what we will do and not do. And so that's sort of why you're seeing a lot of these other ones starting to kick up, and they've seen others do it. And so they're like, well, it's, not as hard as everybody might tell us it is. And, but it does take some work and some commitment from not only the commission, but also the community in whole. And we'll walk through that as well. In essence, and we're going to, in the first couple of slides here, we're going to talk about, what it is and why it's a benefit. And the Port Authority has done conduit issues before. And so if you think about a TIF transaction, that most communities are willing to engage in economic development deals, but do not want to put their general obligation credit or their full faith and credit of that community behind it. They will typically say, hey, take the TIF revenues, go finance it on your own. And that can be done. It's just the problem with that is it's at a higher cost of capital borrowing. And so in today's market, with a rated bond fund, if you don't have a bond fund structure behind it, you're probably looking at 6.5% for a TIF revenue bond, maybe to 7%, depending on the project. With a bond fund, that probably moves down to 5.25%, 5.5%. So there is a big benefit there in terms of interest rate differential, which is why a lot of folks have looked at creating these and setting them up. The other benefit to doing this is that you can also pool resources from across the state in several different ways. The state of Ohio, about 1.5 years ago, put $5 million from Jobs Ohio into a certain number of bond funds in the state. And that's, we'll talk about the the backstops here, but it was towards what we call the end of the waterfall where they put their money at. The other thing you can do is also work with other bond funds to diversify risk. And so let's say you have a development deal that you'd like to participate in as a port authority, and it's a $9 million transaction. You can work with other bond funds across the state to sort of decrease that risk and downsize the issue. So that bond fund might do $4.5 million deal, and you would do $4.5 million to diversify your risk. And that happens quite often. It also helps you get geographical diversity when they invite you in, because part of the credit rating, we'll talk about that too, is based upon your ability to do things outside of your area. And we've talked about strategy-wise what might be a good way to look at that too, where there's not bond fund activity going towards the east from you now. So the last thing, which is probably a good benefit, is transactional fees. And so, for example, Warren's bond fund right now is generating about $450,000 a year in transaction fees that is reoccurring. And so there's two ways that happens. One is when you do the bond issue upfront, you get an upfront fee. And then there's an ongoing fee that's negotiated with when you do the transaction. And that creates revenue based upon the outstanding principal amount. There's a calculation that's done, and that's where that fee comes in. Now, Warren takes their money and shoves it back into one of their reserves of the bond fund. Others have chosen to do different things with it, but it does bring you revenue back towards your community. Please jump in if there's any questions whatsoever on any of this. We love flow charts here, and so I'm going to try to just really make this very simple. A bond fund program is really it's when a bond is issued, and behind that there are buckets of revenue or security that backstop that bond. And the reason why that's important is then the investor, instead of looking at, they're going to look at the transaction itself too to make sure it's a good deal, but then they're going to also look into these different buckets to see what sort of backstops are there in case there is a default scenario. To my knowledge, I don't think there's ever been a default of a bond fund deal in the state of Ohio, and we're going to talk about why that is and the sort of issues that you want to focus on to make sure you stay safe with that. But the first box up there, if you look in the middle right below monthly financing payments, that's where I want to focus. Every deal has to issue a debt service reserve fund. You've done this in the past when you did water and sewer deals in the capital markets. And that is a 10% reserve based upon the par amount of the issue. And so that goes into a bucket and sits there for the benefit of the investor in case there is a default, a late payment, what have you. Then that money would come in to make that payment in its place until the issue was resolved or cured. And so that's what they call the primary reserve fund. After that, there are buckets below that. One is a collateral count. Some of the transactions may have additional collateral pledge to it. That would be additional security line that would be in place. Some of those might be, developer guarantees. That could be other cash collateral reserves that we would put in place as part of the transaction. Down from that, we have a prepayment account. We talked about those fees and that $400,000 example from Warren. As that comes in throughout the year, that is set aside to help also offset if there was a catastrophic event, and then you're now down to that third bucket to make a debt payment. That would be utilized first or third, I guess I should say, to help make the payment. At the end of the year, if everything is good, that gets flushed out and then gets to be used, whatever the policy would be of the Port Authority and the bond fund. Last is probably the most important, that last bucket down there. It's called the program reserve. And this is probably the largest, usually the largest amount of security in a bond fund. It is made up of one of two things, most likely two things, and I'll explain why. Warren County, when they started their bond fund, they put $1 million of cash from their Port Authority they had saved up doing sales tax transactions, other deals. And they put that into the program reserve to get theirs started. They also started with $1.5 million letter of credit, so it was $2.5 million in the back here that acted as security to the transactions. After living through $2.5 million of starting off their bond fund and gave me a lot of gray hairs, I wouldn't suggest that because it was difficult. to get things moving along. It's possible, but it was hard. Delaware County, when we started their bond fund, started with a $3.5 million loan from the treasurer's office, and it's being paid back over time from fees. Lake County is looking at utilizing cash they put aside from the commissioners to fund that. Erie County is probably looking more at revenues from their Port Authority. So there's a lot of ways you can get there to start this off, and it doesn't necessarily need to be cash out the door if it's a commissioner commitment. It could be a repayable grant. There's ways you could structure that in order to get money back over time, because the key point to that last box there is that once it's put in place, it cannot be removed. And so that is the whole basis to when we go to get 10 deals finally and that are done and go to S&P to get it rated. These are the things they're going to look at. One of the things that they're going to look at relative to the strength of the fund. Any questions on that page?
So just really quickly,
Yeah.
for discussion points, just talk real quick about, you went over, establishing these bonds and having the Port Authority in place to do that, and a borrower, just in quick terms, a particular project or particular entity comes to the Port Authority and says, I need, just talk about that just for a second, just real something.
So let's just take, I'll just make a community. Miami Township comes to you and says, hey, we've got a project. We like it. We would ask you to support it. And they might ask you to support it, with sales tax exemption, bond issue. And then also if they say, hey, we got a TIF in place or a special assessment district that we would like to take it through your bond fund. Okay. And this is really a key point, is the Port Authority and the bond fund does not dictate the incentive. You're there to offer a service to the community that says, hey, we've got a project, and the bond fund can find a way to do it cheaper when the financing happens. And so that's really the essence of what we're looking at here. And so one key point, and there's operational guidelines that we actually have done, and Pat did a lot of work on it previously. It lays out the type of deals that we want to look at. And so we're very careful about what transactions that we're going to do, and it's mainly tax lien secured transactions. And so the reason why that's important is that when you look at those buckets, it takes usually in a complete collapse scenario up to 3 years for the process to happen to go through a foreclosure proceedings. We typically almost 100% will not get there. And the reason why is because, for example, a multifamily development, they come to you and ask you for a TIF, or they do want to do a bond fund transaction. They've gotten a TIF from Miami Township. And what's going to happen there is whoever has done the construction mortgage, which is, call it 80, 70, depending on where we're at, 60% of the value, of the sources going in their project, is going to step in and cure that position to protect their rights. So that's why tax lien secured deals are so important with these bond funds.
Okay. Thank you.
His first interruption is here.
I know. I was just gonna say he's so in the weeds of the financial details of it. I think to answer your question on a simple level, and back to what Andy was talking about on a conduit deal, typically a Port Authority will issue bonds, but those bonds are repaid from another revenue source. So let's say there's tax increment financing. Miami says, Port Authority, we issue debt, you sell bonds. Those bonds won't be repaid by the port; they'll be repaid by that revenue source. So the port really does nothing but issue bonds, to a purchaser or lender, but really the responsible party to repay is Miami Township in that case from their TIF, or the project owner, let's say.
They're pledging TIF revenues to service the bond.
Yes. So the Port Authority is saying, we're not responsible, we're not using our money. It'll be repaid from the source, but we are a conduit issuer. Right?
And what the port's able to give them is a much better financing rate, and basically able to back them up when it comes to driving the financing.
Yeah, and so in with the bond fund, instead of the port theoretically just saying, yes, we will issue them, you pay them back, they could say, we'll also have a pot of money. And if the revenues are insufficient to pay that debt, the purchaser of those bonds could theoretically draw on that pot of money. And so the investor says, okay, well, that's great for me. There's more money that I can potentially use to repay the debt that you owe me. So I'm going to give you a lower interest rate because I'm more secure now. And so that pot of money, there's a bunch of legal and financial details to it, but that pot of money is really what the bond fund is.
That's okay. The next page, page 4, is really just a narrative of what we went through. I'm not going to harp on this, but in essence, what happens then after, once we get a deal in fixed rate bonds that are helping the local community. And as mentioned, the whole idea is to get a lower cost of capital, and that can either, help the net funding to the project fund. As you lower the interest rate, it helps increase the project fund, or it helps the community keep more tax dollars at home, in essence. In terms of who buys these, when we first got into the business, I got into this 25, 26 years ago, there was a lot of pushback related to bond funds. It was skeptical. That buying universe has really opened up. And so there's a much greater demand out there for this type of bonds. And so banks buy them, institutional investors, individual investors, it really depends. In Delaware, I think there probably has been the most aggressive that Treasurer has, where he has bought 3 or 4 different local government bonds through the program as well. So, his viewpoint was, hey, I want to help the community out by, we've got all this money here at the county. Let's try to help local communities out with a lower cost of borrowing program in their mind. So that sort of leads into my next slide here in terms of, eligible borrowers. Warren and Delaware have really been the most aggressive with helping out local governments with financings. And the reason being is that, as you guys have issued bonds before in the past, the reporting requirements, rating agencies, all these things are burdened more on the local, on their staff. And so they may not be an issuer every 3 or 4 years. They may do it every 10 years or 15 years. And they say, listen, we don't want to get a rating. We don't want to do the big official statement. Let's go through the bond fund program, let them worry about continuing disclosure. And we just have an agreement with them to give them the information that we're supposed to give them. And so it's been a big, probably, especially in the rural areas, a good program to utilize. We're getting ready to do a deal for Delaware for a township $2 million transaction. And it's for a maintenance facility. They were looking at 7.5% to 8% interest rates. And it was because they're, the reporting, they report, they audit every 2 years, so on and so forth. And they were really getting hit hard. Treasurer's going to buy it at the current 10-year treasury. So help them out by 300 basis points. County treasurer is still making what they should be making in terms of the 10-year treasury. And so it's a nice benefit to the community as an example. In terms of the development, on the development side, we've done a few deals for water and sewer district, new community authorities, which are becoming more and more popular down in the Southwest Ohio area, some TIDs, transportation improvement districts, to spell that out. Nonprofits, I want to focus on that for a second, because we don't want to be working, some non-for-profits aren't as strong as others. We typically are focusing on nonprofits that have some sort of, federal monies coming through to them, or they might have a county levy that's dedicated to them, some sort of that. We've done that in Warren County, and actually looking at another deal up in Preble, because Warren works with the Preble. They have an agreement to work with them on a financing for them as well. So that's sort of general in terms of who we go after in terms of marketing the program, which is what the goal would be of the department here to get out and get the word out to folks. Again, eligible projects, we're really looking at new construction. We can do refinancing for local governments. We've done that before. Just sort of some highlights on this page. We'll talk about ways the county commission can help out. And I don't know if you have any outstanding bonds, but the Warren County example was we were trying to get the 10 as fast as we could. And so they refinanced 2 special assessment bonds through the program. They saved some money, and they were willing to take it through the bond fund program, and it helped them get to their 10 deal number to get rated. Land acquisition, really what we're looking for there is where it's part of a development's going to happen. We do not do speculative land development transactions. We have done an awful lot of single family development deals, but those are only being done with significant deep pockets behind it, and making sure that if those parcels aren't built upon and the financing structure, we make sure that there's a deep pocket behind that and a personal guarantee from a developer. So that's sort of a highlight on that page. This is going to be hard to read, but I wanted to toss this in here, and I tossed this in last minute because I had it in the presentation up in Erie County yesterday. But you can look through this on your own. This is the Warren County bond fund listing, and you can see they're up to about $100 million in par now. And the key to this is that they've not only done deals within the county, but they've done deals outside the county. So they've done a deal up in Sydney. They've done a deal as far as what NOPEC is on there. It's a special energy district up in northeastern Ohio. So they've really expanded their base to try to get diversity in their fund, which is an important point with the credit rating agencies. I've also have Delaware in here, and I'm going to focus on Delaware a second because it's a little bit easier to read than all those lines on Warren. But this is Delaware, and so again, they've been up and running about 2 years now. We are getting ready to issue deal number 6 and 7 for them, and you can see there over to the right, the primary reserve balance. Again, that's at 10% of each par issued that has to be done for each deal that's put into the fund, and that totals right now $2.9 million. And then their 3.5 that they put in originally under the program reserve is now $3.6 million. So behind all those transactions, there is about $6.6 million of funds available to pay an investor back if there's some sort of scenario. So you can see where those buckets start to grow, right? And the percentages we look at down below of the fund balance to outstanding principal of the fund, there we're looking at 23% of a ratio. We have elected not to get a letter of credit yet for Delaware. We've got banks that are dying to do it for us, but until we get rated, we're able to place this debt in an efficient manner. So we're waiting in that scenario to get a letter of credit. I'm guessing probably next year, once we get the 10 deals, we'll get the letter of credit in place and move on with the rating process there. So that's 2 examples that you can see of one that started about 5 years ago and one that started about 2-3 years ago. Next couple pages are really just some for you. I think you've seen this before, but these are the other bond funds that are in the state of Ohio. Southwest, that's a combination between the Hamilton County Cincinnati Port Authority and the Dayton Montgomery Port Authority. Northwest Ohio Bond Fund, that's the Toledo area. That's probably, I think, the longest running, oldest. They actually really started as a port authority, a true port authority. And now they're doing financing deals as well. And they've gotten very large with different programs. Central Ohio Bond Fund, that's the Columbus area. The Ohio Community Accelerator Fund, that's Warren Counties. These all have catchy names as to if you want to put a catchy name to your fund. I tossed in Ohio Enterprise Bond Fund. That's Jobs Ohio and Department of Development. And they have really gotten active lately. That is a very strong bond fund program. So if you're looking at development deals down this way, they do a lot of corporate type bond fund lending as well. They're AA+ rated, so that's a very strong rating. DCFA, the Development Finance Authority, and then the DCFA up there, the Cleveland one, and then the Summit County one, and then obviously Delaware there as well. So, again, just to hammer this home, in order to get a rating, we need 10 individual credit supported transactions. So, for example, if the county, just making this as an example, if the county wanted to do 10 transactions in it and say, hey, we're going to do 10 deals and pledge general obligation behind each one of them, that counts as one because it's the same credit. So it has to be individual credits, even if it's from the same community. So we need 10 of those to get rated, and then we can get that process done. That's S&P's guidelines. And you can see there in terms of the credit ratings that each one I've listed. A lot of these you see here, the first, 6 or 7 of them are in the A category. Toledo Lucas County just recently in the last 2 weeks got upgraded to A. And so again, in that category, you have the best rating in a category is a plus. If there's nothing next to it, that's the middle of that rating category, A. And then if there's a minus, that's the bottom of that rating category. All these listed there were upgraded out of the triple B plus category to A minus when the state of Ohio gave them all $5 million to put in their fund. And I'm going to talk about that in a little bit too. The other one that was left out was Warren. So they're still at triple B minus. We're getting ready to head back to the credit rating agencies again because our letter of credit was increased to $3 million with Fifth Third, and then they just put another $700,000 in revenues into the program reserve fund. So we've got a transaction heading back. And then obviously you and Delaware are not rated yet. The next couple pages, I'm not going to go over these in general, but you can just see, the different deals that have been done over time, the size. We just pulled a sampling of some of the transactions that have been completed. But what I want to focus on next is sort of how can the commission help? And you're not allowed to throw anything at me when I go through this listing here. This page came from Delaware County. The commissioners said, hey, we want to know how can we make this one of the best bond funds in the state of Ohio? And I said, well, okay, I'm going to go back and think about that. And some of these things we've discussed before with them. The first one up there, we are working with all I call the non-A rated or A minus rated bond funds to change state law. We had found in our research, Warren County had done a deal over in Northern Kentucky. And we pulled Northern Kentucky's laws and some of their programs over there and found out that Kentucky state law says that you can explicitly do a bond fund under state law. And they have a higher credit rating. And the rating agencies use these, what they call scorecards. And we noticed that in one section of the scorecard, Ohio was less, and we didn't understand. So we pulled the information, and Robbie in our office found out that, well, it's because Ohio law does not explicitly state that you can do a bond fund. If you read every rating report, they recognize that they're all done. But statute does not specifically say it. So we said, okay, well, that seems to be an easy fix. Let's go get the law changed. And so we're in the process of doing that. Senator Wilson in Warren County has been willing to take up the flag on that. And once they're able to get things into the state house up there, they're going to try to attach it to a bill. But it is very important for this bond fund to get that legislation through. And we've got a support letter that I'm going to send on over tomorrow that asks for Kris or whoever to sign that and support it and send it off to your representatives and let them know that Senator Wilson's working on this. The second thing is to lobby Jobs Ohio. When I told Erie County yesterday what had happened, that Warren was left out, they were baffled. There might be reasons why, but there's a bunch of communities that are now moving forward with their funds. Like I said, Lake, Erie, Warren, Butler. We are trying to build a coalition of those non-funded groups to go to Jobs Ohio and say, hey, why not us? If you gave it to them, then you should be able to willing to support this. It's an important tool for economic development in the state of Ohio. And let's see if we can get some money out of the state relative to that. So that's the second thing we're going to be working on. Would ask those two things, ask your support to get done. I put up here county treasurer discussions. I'm not sure. I've not met the county treasurer. I'm not sure if you're in the room or not, but we have worked with Delaware. I would say Delaware probably is the most aggressive county treasurer I've seen involved in this stuff. So I'm not advocating for that, but there are some examples to look at, and to see if that makes sense for funding of the program reserve or even buying investments. Warren County started to do that when they bought a lot of investments from the bond funds. And at the time, the county treasurer picked and choose what he wanted to do, but it's a way for the county to be involved, especially if there's local government deals that come through to help support the local governments who might be borrowing at 300 basis points more than what a bond fund can do for you. The last part, number 4 there is in Delaware, we had this discussion about, a lot of communities are been blessed lately to have a lot of cash in the general fund, and so they pay a lot of projects with cash. And we said, listen, is there a project that you have that can get us to 10 quickly? That's the whole goal. That, let's just say it's a $10 million project, and instead of paying the full $10 million in cash, you only do 9, and you run $1 million or something through the bond fund over a 10-year period. The treasurer could still buy it. You're really sort of just washing money through. I hate to use that term, but that's really what it is, in order to get a bond fund deal into the program. One of the commissioners in Delaware said to me, "Hey, we don't like issuing bonds. We don't want any debt." And I said, "Well, it's not really debt of the county commission." And what I mean by that is you have to enter into a cooperative agreement that says that you're going to send money over, every 6 months to help finance the bond issue, if you will. And so that's an easy way, either on a county general-wide project, water and sewer department, ditch bonds, all those types of things would be perfect to run through in order for us to get it to our 10 deal number. The last one was where, we had some good discussion in Delaware about this, is where can the commission play a role and really enhance the credit package of the bond fund. And if you remember back to those buckets, right, we have that first line of defense is at 10% reserve, and we go down. Where Jobs Ohio played a role at was at the very bottom of the waterfall. And so their viewpoint was, looking at some of these bond funds, is that there's, you're going to have Armageddon if you get to the very bottom of these things. That's where we talked with Delaware. We said, okay, and keeping in mind that once you do this, you can't pull it out. So it's got to be there for the life of the fund. But allocate, in their scenario, we looked at their inside millage, and we said, okay, what if you appropriate 1/10 of a mil of your inside millage at the very bottom of the fund? Or you allocate 10% of your interest income that you get each year towards the bottom of the fund. The key point there, and one commissioner said to me, he said, "So if I'm doing this over 10 years, I'm giving you $10 million?" I said, "No, you're not." Cash doesn't even move hands. It's there as a backstop in case if something happens. There's obviously an event of a payment, but there's not cash moving hands. It's just appropriated in a contractual commitment, if you will. I got through that without you throwing anything at me. So that's really the different ways that we. And in fact, when I was at Erie yesterday, they came up with an interesting idea. They have a community foundation that's got a lot of assets. They said, "Well, can a community foundation play that role?" And I said, "Yeah, I mean, I have to think through the credit impacts of that in terms of the strength, but that's a possibility as well." So that is the. You don't have to read all this disclaimer, SEC, but that's the end of our presentation. If you've got any questions, or if Pat wants to enhance on anything at all, Kris, if I missed anything, that's happy to.
Well, I want to thank Andy and Pat for being here and presenting this. I think next steps. What we heard today is this is a very secure way to provide cheaper money cheaper credit to our communities, to the county for various projects. They're backed by the tax lien secured or special assessment. So, in all those different pots of backstop money. And again, as Andy said, there's as far as he knows, there's not been a bond deal that's fallen through or had to go through that entire process. So it's a very secure way for an arm of the county to provide capital for projects in the county. So at this point in 2022, the Port Authority has done the legislative process to create the bond fund. They've done the policies, as I think Andy and Pat discussed. We have some money not in the bond fund, but the Port Authority has some money to put towards this. And this was a primer to get this conversation started once again. And there will probably be an ask from the Port Authority to the Board of County Commissioners to assist with this project. So we need to do some internal discussions, and figure out the best way and propose and come back and talk with you. But we just at this point wanted introduce this, discuss it again, refresh your memories, and see if you had any questions on that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Next up in item H, which we're currently in for staff and elected official discussions, is going to be Kris Turner for Facilities Director and Jessica Powell.
Good
Morning.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
We have, this is change order number 20 for the juvenile court expansion. Go over some of these items with you. Item number 1 is the ad for HVAC in the IT room and a secure connector. The original design for the IT room had an air supply, which industry standards was 75 to 80 degrees. Talking with some of our ISD and our other IT rooms, we usually keep them around the 65 to 70 degree range. So this would just help supply extra cooling in that IT room. The the secure connector, the units that are in there will provide heating and cooling. However, they don't provide a good moisture control. We do have some drywall on the ceiling of that. So those extra units for the mini splits will help control some of the moisture and also help supplement some heating and cooling, as the R value of the secure connector had gotten changed earlier. That'll help us keep that secured connector in a better tempered state. This increase to the project for the IT room and the connector HVAC is $67,292.48. Architect has verified the cost, and the supporting documentation is in the packet. If you would like to take a vote on that.
You'd like to vote?
Sure. Go ahead.
Commissioner Batchelor,
Yes.
Commissioner Painter,
Yes.
Commissioner Corcoran.
Yes.
And the second item for this change order is for the gallery walls. In the courtrooms, each of the 5 courtrooms, the way that it was designed, you have the prosecutor and defense table in the trial courtroom, as well as the other smaller courtrooms. The wall separating from the actual courts to the gallery was pushed up. The tables were above a ground tombstone, if you will, that holds the information, data lines, electric, that type of stuff for computers. It was elected by Judge Shriver to move those walls back to give more room between those gallery walls and the back of the seating area. So if you have anybody walking behind, that will move that back and keep people from kicking those connections underneath the tables. This was a change for all 5 courtrooms. It was a Judge Shriver initial request, and to approximately move those walls 20 inches, which should give us about 3 feet roughly between the chairs and the walls. That increases $41,023.41, and architect has verified the costs, and the supporting documentation is in the packet.
Chris, talk about that for a second. This is finished to oak gallery walls like you see on the inside of a courtroom.
Correct.
And those walls had actually been installed.
Mm-hmm. Most of them have been installed. I think there was 1 or 2 that was in place that weren't fully installed. 2 of the other ones were installed. The original talks of it was having to remove those walls back to a finishing shop, which would have in turn take longer. However, after looking at it, there were some of the changes that could be made, and some of the changes can be made in the field, so that way all the walls could stay here. So it was definitely a change that.
In addition, it's not just moving the walls; it's also moving the steel attachments that hold those walls. It's moving the electrical conduit back into the wall. It's redoing the chair rail, and then actually the floor receptacles that are there have to have a modification done to them, or a cover.
The floor receptacles will stay. However, that moving these walls back will allow the tables to move back. So that way the wiring comes up at the front of the tables instead of being underneath and run. That way nobody's kicking them or unplugging them over time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you ready to vote?
Mhm.
Commissioner Batchelor,
Yes.
Commissioner Painter,
Yes.
Commissioner Corcoran.
Yes.
Thank you.
You need these back, Gail.
Yes, please.
Sorry.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Chris. Next up is Suki Sheets, Clermont County Engineer's Office. Talk about a plaque dedication, right?
Suki, before you start, why is your name not on it?
I'm not putting my name on that.
Oh, so when we do all these changes, she's not responsible.
I can see trucks and stuff undercover.
There you go.
All right. So Wayne gives me crap in our meetings.
Yeah.
Because if it has to do with color or anything, they ask me. We're down to final design of a dedication plaque. Thank you, David. This is what Garmin Miller's come up with. We need just approval so that they can get it procured and ready for installation. Where this plaque will be is in the front main hallway on the wall. I believe it is a plexiglass with all the print on the back side, so it'll just be mounted right to the wall. So if you're all in agreement with it, I already have Jeremy sign off on it. We can get it signed off on and back to Garmin Miller so that they or Monarch, I guess Monarch will have their people create the plaque so it's ready for installation. Looks good, doesn't it? I like how they brought the sun in from
Commissioner
our.
Painter wanted it in bronze, though. didn't
Yeah,
he?
no.
Well, there was some conversation about that.
Yeah.
It was going to be in,
Mostly, I think Wade, Chris, correct me. Bronze ones are mostly on the outsides of the buildings we see. You know, this one's going to be undercover inside, temperature controlled, so it can,
that works.
you know,
I'm just adding it.
We're going to bring the sunshine inside.
inside.
Very
There you
good.
There you go.
It looks
So,
great, Suki. It looks
That,
great.
I mean, I thought it turned out real well. If you want to pass that
Good.
down for signature.
There we are.
You need a Gail, an affirmation or a
No,
resolution?
I think you can just sign off on it.
So we're moving.
Good.
Those buildings are going up quickly over there. I was over by there yesterday.
Less headache, too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we took a tour on Monday with our highway operations guys. So we kind of imposed on them. We had people all over walking, but it's looking really good.
Great job.
You know, the
Good.
insides of the buildings, the space that they're going to have to get our stuff in is.
You won't know what to do when you move in
Yeah,
there.
I mean, they all were kind of in awe.
Good.
So we appreciate it.
And Monarch is gainfully employed over there. I think they've got people in every building working.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
There you go.
Thanks, Suki.
You have a copy of it for me?
I will.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we will move on with the regular agenda, I believe, Tom.
Sir.
All right, we will go to item D, the consent agenda. Board, a consent agenda has been prepared for you. You've had the opportunity to review it. Are there any items that need to be removed from the consent agenda for further discussion?
Okay.
Okay. With hearing none, I would ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
It's been moved and second. Roll call, Gail.
Commissioner Corcoran.
Yes.
Commissioner Batchelor. Yes.
Commissioner
Commissioner Painter.
Yes, we'll move to item E, non-consent agenda, which starts on page 3. Item number 6, it's a recommendation that the Board of County Commissioners adopt resolution number 03624 to approve payment to vendors in the amount of $3,457,932.39 as outlined in the BCC approval invoice reports for the checks dated May 1st, 2024. BCC directed prepaid invoice reports and the procurement card transaction report as presented by the county auditor on 4/29, and further authorizing the auditor to issue warrants in accordance with ORC 319.16 of your Ohio Revised Code. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
It's been moved and second. Roll call, Gail.
Commissioner Batchelor. Yes. Commissioner Corcoran.
Yes.
Commissioner Painter.
Yes. Item number 7.
Hello again.
Hey, Chris.
Item number 7 is a recommendation to authorize David L. Painter, President of the Board of County Commissioners, to execute change order number 7 to the contract with Monarch Construction Company at 164 Sherman Avenue, P.O. Box 12249, Cincinnati, Ohio, for construction of the Filliger Campus Improvement Phase 1 project, previously ratified by the Board of County Commissioners on 5/31/2023, and subsequently amended. There is no change in the total contract price of $18,516,000, but the required use of an amount not to exceed $22,104.79 of the contract contingency allowance, and an increase of contract time by 3 days, resulting in a new completion date of August 15th, 2024, in compliance with the terms and conditions in the contract of Filiger Campus Improvement Phase 1 as outlined below. Two of these items, the first one is a water line tie-in that they had. There was some additional piping that had to be put in there, and it's a better system that we had put in. That's $20,000, $585. There's also the ice maker connection that the county engineer, they are going to have ice maker in their room. That connection needed to be put in as well.
Board, you've heard the reading of item number 7. Do I have a motion for approval?
Make the motion.
I'll second.
It's been moved and second. Any further conversation or discussion? Roll call, Gail.
Commissioner Corcoran.
Yes.
Commissioner Batchelor. Commissioner Painter.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Item number 8. Morning.
Good morning.
Recommendation that the Board of County Commissioners authorize David L. Painter, President of the Board of County Commissioners, to sign the letter of engagement with Julian and Grube Incorporated, an independent public accountant, for the annual audit for the County of Clermont, Ohio, which includes Clermont County Port Authority, Clermont County Community Improvement Corporation, and Clermont County Land Bank for calendar year 2023 at the rate of $78,750. In concert with the memorandum of agreement between Keith Faber, Ohio Auditor of State, Julian and Grube Incorporated, an independent public accountant, and the Board of County Commissioners, Clermont County, Ohio, previously ratified by the Board of County Commissioners on December 18, 2019, and subsequently amended pursuant to the terms and conditions in the agreement.
Board, you've heard the reading of item number 8. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Been moved and second. Any further conversation or discussion? Roll call, Gail.
Commissioner Batchelor.
Yes.
Commissioner Corcoran. Commissioner Painter.
Yes.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Item number 9.
Okay, item number 9 is a recommendation, and this is to modify a commitment of ARPA funding that was previously ratified by the board on May 25th of 2022, and designate those funds up to $500,000 to be utilized for the project design phase of the Buxton Roundabout project in Union Township, a project being managed and contracted for by the Clermont County Transportation Improvement District. Last week, Mr. Evans was here and he explained the change that we are proposing on the Buxton project to make it a corridor project. Therefore, the design is going to be a little more intensive. We're trying to get federal funds through OKI. So all those requirements will be in the design package too. And we'll be doing this design. It's under contract right now. We're going to modify that contract through the TID with a change order to incorporate the revised scope. And then we're also at the same time going to coordinate with Union Township to administer their sidewalk grant through this project.
Board, you heard the reading of item number 9. Do I have a motion for approval?
Make the motion.
I'll second.
Been moved and second. Any further conversation?
Suki, do we have an idea of when that part will be done?
So the construction of it, it probably 2027. It's really, we're going to try and we've got like a grant timing issue. We don't have the OKI CMAQ funds approved. We're going to be applying for those this month. We're in May, this month. Those will probably be for 2027, 2028. The sidewalk monies are earlier, so we still have some coordination to do through ODOT to maybe allow us.
Because I had a neighbor ask me last night, because she uses that road quite a bit.
So this would, if you remember, it would impact the Shaler and Buxton intersection, as well as further up just south of Klepper.
Thank you.
And am I remiss, or do I remember that we did put this in for OKI, but we didn't make the cut? And the cut was because of matching funds.
Well, at the time, okay, so OKI obviously will evaluate every application they get against each other. So at the time, we did not make the cut. We only had 20%, call it 20% match on the project as local funds. What we are looking for, and we'll address in a week or so, is to figure out how to increase that local match on the construction portion. So we'll be going back to OKI again for construction this year.
Good.
Board, you've heard the reading of, oh, we've already read item 9 and discussed
Yes, we
it.
have.
Okay, roll call, Gail.
Commissioner Corcoran.
Yes.
Commissioner Batchelor.
Yes.
Commissioner Painter.
Yes. Thank you, Suki. Item number 10.
Item number 10 is a recommendation to approve the request to advertise for a competitive sealed proposals for an enterprise-grade video management system for the Clermont County Board of Commissioners, pursuant to the specifications, and to authorize the clerk of the board to place a legal notice in a newspaper of general circulation for 2 consecutive weeks, commencing on May 9th, 2024, with said proposals to be received until 2 p.m. local time on Thursday, June 13th, 2024, in the office of the Board of County Commissioners in Batavia, where they will be publicly opened and acknowledged pursuant to and in compliance with Section 307.862 of the Ohio Revised Code. This notice will also be distributed by electronic means as authorized by RC 307.87 and posted on Clermont County's website at the following URL link, www.clermontcountyohio.gov.
Board, you heard the reading of item number 10. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make the motion.
A second.
Then moved and second. Any further conversation or discussion? Roll call, Gail.
Commissioner Batchelor.
Yes.
Commissioner Corcoran.
Yes.
Commissioner Painter.
Yes. Thank you. Item number 11. Morning, Wayne.
Morning.
Item number 11, recommendation to adopt resolution number 37-24, resolving to declare the necessity to purchase 2 new motor vehicles at an estimated price of $140,000 from funds appropriated for calendar year 2024 pursuant to section 307.41 of the Ohio Revised Code and in compliance with sections 307.86 through 307.92 of the Ohio Revised Code.
Board, you've heard the reading of item number 11. Do I have a motion for approval?
I will make the motion. This is for the sheriff vehicles, correct? Okay.
I will second.
Then moved and second. Any further conversation? Roll. Go ahead.
Can I just ask
Yeah.
what kind of vehicles?
They're SUV PIs, Explorer vehicles.
You're able to get them?
Yes.
Okay.
Roll call, Gail.
Commissioner Corcoran.
Yes.
Commissioner Batchelor.
Yes.
Commissioner Painter.
Yes. Item number 12. Thanks.
Item 12 is a recommendation to award the bid and execute the contract for project number 6401-60211 for the BMW bulk chemical tank replacement project located in Batavia Township, pursuant to the plans and specs to A&N Construction Incorporated out of Napoleon, Ohio, for the lowest and best bid received on March 14th, 2024, for a total amount not to exceed $745,090 in compliance with the terms and conditions and contingent upon the release of the required purchase order. So we had bid this project multiple times. We were actually able to get 3 bids. We had 3 contractors bid on the project. The lowest and best bid is about 103% of our estimate. Okay.
Board, you've heard the reading of item number 12. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make the motion.
A second.
Then moved and second. Any further conversation? Roll call, Gail.
Commissioner Batchelor.
Yes.
Commissioner Corcoran.
Yes.
Commissioner Painter.
Yes. Item number 13, Lon.
Item 13 is a recommendation to approve the request to advertise for bids for sludge and raw wastewater hauling services for the Clermont County Water Resources Department pursuant to the specifications, and to authorize the clerk of the board to place a legal notice in a newspaper of general circulation on Thursday, May 30th, 2024. Schedule a non-mandatory pre-bid meeting on Thursday, June 13th, 2024 at 10 a.m. with bids to be received until 2:00 p.m. local time on Thursday, June 27th, 2024 here in the office of the Board of County Commissioners, 101 East Main Street, where they will be publicly open and read aloud. And the legal notice will also be posted on the county's website. So this is an annual service that we bid out routinely. The estimated cost per year is $201,250.
Board, you've heard the reading of item number 13. Do I have a motion for approval?
Make the motion.
I'll second.
Any further conversation? Roll call, Gail.
Commissioner Corcoran.
Yes.
Commissioner Batchelor.
Yes.
Commissioner Painter.
Yes. Item number 14.
Item 14 is a recommendation to approve the partial release of retainage of the contract by and between Clermont County and Tribute Contracting and Consultants, LLC, out of South Point, Ohio. And this is for project number 6402-60116 relative to the Newtonsville Collection System Assessment Project located in Wayne Township, and to approve the application for payment number 16, which represents the partial release of retainage in the amount of $149,439.68 and a progress payment in the amount of $545.74 for a total amount of $149,985.42. So the reason we're doing a partial release, a few weeks back, I presented a change order number 2 for this project, which was a $27,000 deduct. And at that time, I indicated that was the final change order. However, as property owners are connecting, we found that we had left a sewer lateral off on the drawings. It was part of a settlement condition. That information didn't get conveyed to the engineer, so it didn't get put on the drawings, and the contractor wasn't directed to install it. So the contractor's gonna go back and install this. However, they've asked for some of the retainage to be released. So we've agreed to do that, and then they're gonna install that sewer lateral. So we will have another change order. There'll be a change order 3 on this project.
Board, you've heard the reading of item number 14. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Been moved and second. Any further conversation? Lyle, just to touch on that a second. On another project that we've had here in the county, there was quite a robust discussion on release of partial retainage. How do you come up with the amount to release?
I don't know how they determined that. I wasn't directly involved. I can find out and I'll let you know. I apologize.
No,
we don't
that's
do it that often. I'll be
right.
honest. I think some of it had to do, I'm sure, with demonstrating that they've paid all their subcontractors and all their material men and suppliers, and to make sure that there's still enough in retainage that if there is any other monies due, that we have that available to pay them.
That sounds like the path forward.
And can I just say to you, another friend happened to go up the hill, saw the water tower for the first time that's been painted.
Yes.
Was so impressed and how much they liked the job that was done.
Really
It does. It does.
I think we're painting 2 more next year too. So
When?
2 or 3 next year, but yeah. We'll be
When are you painting the
in
next?
25.
Okay.
25, yeah. I'll give more information when we're getting ready. We do our 5-year capital improvement plan update, so we'll have more information.
It does look good.
Roll call, Gail.
Commissioner Batchelor,
Yes.
Commissioner Corcoran, Commissioner Painter.
Yes. Thank you. Item number 15. Hey, Desmond, morning.
Morning, Commissioners. This is a recommendation to execute the following subrecipient grant agreements between the Board of County Commissioners of Clermont County, Ohio, and 2 political subdivisions for funding with the Clermont County Community Development Block Grant CDBG program, as outlined below. So these are for 2 projects the board has previously funded with CDBG funds in 2023. The first agreement is with Williamsburg Township Trustees, P.O. Box 499, Williamsburg, Ohio, 45176. This is for the Williamsburg Township Emergency Services Building Upgrades Project. Project number CDBG-2023-12, funding with CDBG funds in the amount of $147,000. Contract term 4/1/2024 through 3/31/2025. The next agreement is with Tate Township Trustees, 149 North East Street, Bethel, Ohio, 45106. The project is the Tate Township parking lot at the Bethel Cemetery / park upgrades. Project number CDBG-2023-10. Amount of funding is $90,000. Contract term 4/1/2024 through 9/30/2025.
Desmond, thank you. Board, you've heard the reading of item number 15. Do I have a motion for approval?
Make the motion.
I'll second.
Been moved and second. Any further conversation? Roll call, Gail.
Commissioner Corcoran, Commissioner Batchelor,
Yes.
Commissioner Painter.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 16.
Item 16 is a recommendation to approve the following request for reimbursement of expenses for training and travel according to the policies and procedures of the Board of County Commissioners. This is for Bonnie Batchelor, 1 day, Loveland, Ohio, a seminar, and it is estimated not to exceed $55.
I would move that we approve item number 16 for Commissioner Batchelor's travel.
I will second.
Roll call, Gail.
Commissioner Painter,
Yes.
Commissioner Corcoran, Commissioner Batchelor.
Thank you. That concludes our non-consent agenda for today. Are there any additions to that agenda?
We have two additions, so we can add them at the same time, and then we'll review them separately. We have Lakefield Place petition and an extension of the bid for the EMA remodel project.
Board, you've heard we've been requested to add 2 items to the agenda. Do I have a motion to make the addition?
Go ahead. I'll make the motion to add them to the agenda.
I'll second.
It's been moved and second. Roll call, Gail.
Commissioner Batchelor,
Yes.
Commissioner Corcoran, Commissioner Painter.
Yes, we will proceed.
The first edition is Lakefield Place petition, and Suki and I are going to tag team this. So she's going to talk about it a little bit. You did a viewing of that recently, and that was for date of the 15th.
Right. So the board acknowledged the receipt of the petition early April, set the viewing for April 15th. We went out to the site and viewed the improvements that are to be. And now we've got to decide whether the board has determined that that improvement is for the public convenience and welfare. So there's a motion to either determine that it is, or there's a motion to determine that it is not, and we would not proceed with it as an assessment project. If I go back a little bit more, what is happening is this is a development that runs between State Route 132 and Deerfield Road in Goshen Township. The impact of that development on State Route 132, ODOT required a traffic impact study. That study required a turn lane. ODOT is requiring that the developer make those improvements. The developer has submitted a petition to have the cost of those improvements assessed to the property that is owned by that developer. What will happen if, as we proceed with this project, we can do it, and I'm going to have to talk to the Port Authority. So what happens is we can do it as under the county engineer, or we can do it as a TID. The project will be complete, and then that cost bonds will be issued. We would probably need some advanced funding to be able to get the project done during construction. But the bonds would be issued to reimburse whoever's paying for the construction. And then the debt service on those bonds will be passed on to the property owner typically over a 20-year period. So that, I was just listening to this presentation. It may be a good one for the port to issue it. I would want to look at it. But today, all the board has to decide is whether you find that it's a public convenience and welfare that the improvement be done. So I have an add-on for the improvement, and we have an add-on if you want to reject the improvement. So I'm not exactly sure which way we want to go. Board preferences.
Do I have a motion for consideration here to approve? None?
I have to abstain. My property is impacted there. But just for clarification for everyone, what it does is it takes out property as you're going southbound on 132 on the left-hand side, which will not impact any of the people across the street, any of those neighbors. It just will make it safer because it's already a mess, traffic without that development. And it's move it over so
It is
not
actually
that much.
The road will be widened in front of the development only. So the only right of way necessary is coming from the petitioner. It will be a left turn lane as you're heading north on 132 into the development. If I'm remembering the plan right. So it's only one left turn lane so that traffic can continue up and down 132.
Right turn, wouldn't it?
I think it's a
Head
left
north?
turn. It's a left turn.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you're coming.
Because
okay.
yeah, as you're coming up 132.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So yes, you're right.
Okay.
The people on the east side of 132 will not be impacted. But the petitioner in the development on the left side is providing the right of way necessary to widen that road.
And it's a busy road.
It is.
And it's probably going to stop a lot of future car accidents.
And before I would go for or against, I would just ask the question on there. Typically, when these kind of things come up, I mean, when you're developing the entire subdivision or making the development agreement, when road construction has to be done or things have to be reconfigured, isn't that typically done upfront by the developer?
A lot of them are. It gets a little odd when you're dealing with a state route. Just because, and a developer that would have to acquire right away. In this case, they were able to design the project where they're the only ones providing the right of way. But if they had to go get right of way for the other side of the street, it just becomes something that it's difficult for a developer to acquire right away. We did one through the TID where there was a signal put in at 28 and Smith, and the TID did the project on behalf of the developer. The developer contributed the funds. That one, the developer was able to get right away. He made the deal, so the right of way was acquired for that. But it's not always the case that would be that easy. But yes, typically developers do it. So bottom line, the developer is responsible for getting the project done. What's happening on this one versus one that would not have been petitioned is this one, the cost of the improvement will go on the taxes for 20 years as opposed to the cost of the improvement being in the lot price that the people are paying. It'll be just a limited 20-year impact to their property bills.
Mm-hmm.
Pay the debt back.
So they'll know up front that that's been assessed to that piece of property.
Yeah, what'll have to happen next, I believe, and I'm trying to get this confirmed with bond counsel. I believe the next resolution the board will see is to accept the plans and set the tentative assessment. Mm-hmm. So the tentative assessment then becomes a note on this developer's parcel, and any lot that comes out of it will have that same note, and they'll be aware of the tentative assessment. Once the project's finished and the final costs are known and the final levying assessment happens to the parcels, it'll all go on the one, and as things get platted out, they'll get their share of it. Mm-hmm. And the developed part, the original developer parcel will be reduced on the assessment it has to pay. Okay. So ultimately, all of the assessment will get paid. It'll start with one parcel, and then it'll end up with 203, I believe you mentioned.
Okay. Then I would make a recommendation to adopt resolution 038-24, finding that a petition was submitted to the board on March 25th, 24, seeking certain improvements be made, that the signers requested to be specially taxed or assessed for such improvements, with all requirements met by the property owners to be taxed pursuant to the Ohio Revised Code 5555.03, and that the Board of Clermont County Commissioners visited the site, reviewed the proposed improvements, and found that the public convenience and welfare required that the improvements set forth in the petition be made, and the Clermont County engineers hereby ordered to prepare the necessary surveys, plans, profiles, cross sections, estimates of cost, and specifications for the improvement, together with an estimated assessment based upon the estimates of cost upon the real estate to be charged therewith of such part of the estimated damages and the expenses of such improvements are to be specially assessed. Do I have a second?
I will second.
It's been moved and second. Any further conversation? Roll call, Gail.
Commissioner Painter,
Yes.
Commissioner Batchelor,
Yes.
Commissioner Corcoran.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You bet. Thank you.
Thank
And then the second one?
Morning.
Morning.
Morning, Wade.
Good, you?
I have Jessica Powell with me today.
Yes.
I have to put my glasses on. This add-on is a recommendation to acknowledge the extension of the bid opening date through addendum number 2 to the bidding documents for the EMA Center office renovations previously approved by the Board of County Commissioners on 3/27/2024, which will extend the date for the receipt of bids from 2 p.m. local time on Thursday, May 2nd, 2024 to 2 p.m. local time on Thursday, May 16th, 2024. This is to provide clarification to the project specifications to the bidders and allow additional time for the bidders to review the specifications and plans in order to promote competitive bidding pursuant to and in compliance with Section 153.12 of the Ohio Revised Code.
Board, you've heard the reading of the request for recommendation to acknowledge the extension of bid. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion. I'll second.
It's been moved and second. Any further conversation? Roll call again.
Commissioner Batchelor?
Yes.
Commissioner Corcoran?
Yes.
Commissioner Painter?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It will happen. It will happen. Thank you.
Anything else before we? Okay. The next order of business up is item number G. I'm requesting an executive session pursuant to section 121.22 G1 of the Ohio Revised Code to consider the employment, dismissal, or compensation of one or more public employees. Do I have a motion to go into executive session?
I'll make the motion. I'll second.
It's been moved and second. Any further conversation? Roll call, Gail.
Commissioner Corcoran?
Yes.
Commissioner Batchelor?
Yes.
Commissioner Painter?
Yes, we will move into executive session. We will return and we will conduct further business. Thank you. We have returned from executive session. There were no decisions made and no actions taken. We will move on with our agenda. Item number F, we talked about additions to the agenda. Are there any further additions to the agenda today?
No further additions, but we do have that tabled item for your
Okay.
consideration.
We don't have an addition. However, we do have a previous tabled item that was placed on the table on 3/27/24. And I'd like to entertain a motion to remove that item. It is for Board of County Commissioners. Motion to approve a master agreement, and it was for Adams Company, Adams Heating and Air Conditioning. So could I get a motion to remove this from the table for consideration in today's session?
I'll make the motion.
Been moved
I'll second.
and second. Roll call, Gail.
Commissioner Batchelor?
Yes.
Commissioner Corcoran?
Yes.
Commissioner Painter?
Yes, we have removed that back off the table, and now it's out here on the floor for discussion. There's a recommendation to authorize the county administrator or the assistant county administrator to approve the master service agreement to allow the release of required purchase orders for the terms and conditions specified in the agreement as outlined below, contingent upon the release of a required purchase order. The vendor is Adams Company Incorporated, DBA Adams Heating and Cooling. They're located 8185 Beachmont Avenue. HVAC service and repairs. And the term for this master service agreement is 3/27/24 through 3/26/27. Before I ask for a motion for this approval, I would just note that Adams Heating and Air Conditioning Cooling is not located at 8185 Beachmont Avenue. They have a new facility that's right on the end of 9 Mile Road, right across from Beachmont Ford. Mm-hmm. They built a brand new. Now they still own the building at 81, I believe. I don't think it's sold yet, but that's not where they conduct their business. You might want to look that up real quick if we have access to the internet on here so we can make that correction.
Same one? We're sure that's the same. This 3932 9 Mile Road,
Mm-hmm.
Cincinnati, Ohio.
Yeah.
45255. Sound familiar?
Yep.
I don't have their the actual master service agreement. Is this it right here?
Mhm.
Okay. Let me see.
What's the zip on that?
45255.
Actually, the master service agreement does say 3932 9 Mile Road, Cincinnati, Ohio, 45255.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah, they just built that a couple of years ago.
Yep.
So let me make sure there's no other reference here.
Just want to make sure we get it right.
As modified.
The board, you've heard the reading of the motion and the change to the actual physical address that Adams Heating and Cooling is located at. Do I have a motion for approval of this master service agreement?
I'll make the motion. We've met all the conditions though, right, for the requirements of the master service agreement, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll second.
It's been moved and second. Any further conversation? Roll call, Gail.
Commissioner Corcoran? Commissioner Batchelor?
Yes.
Commissioner Painter?
Yes. Any other further additions or considerations?
Yes, sir.
Okay. County elected officials. Anyone else, elected official, county employee wants to speak to the board? Before we move, item number I, board member comments. Board members, any comments? I just wanted to mention to the community that the One Ohio portal is open for submission of proposals that are associated with the opioid settlement from the distributors and the manufacturers. So if you are a entity that is looking for the ability to gain some of these funds for the required MOU that's in place, the time to do so is now. You can go out on the One Ohio website and you will see that they have a portal for actually submitting your project and doing that electronically. So we're in hopes to see that, many entities within Clermont County take that opportunity. There's $7.1 million available. So just wanted to bring that to your attention. Anything else? And then I entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion. I'll second.
Been moved and second. Roll call, Gail.
Commissioner Batchelor,
Yes.
Commissioner Corcoran, Commissioner Painter.
Yes, thank you for being with us today on this 1st of May, and we will see you at the next meeting. Thanks so much.